How you doing, everyone? Once again, I'm Mr. Alvin Hendricks, training manager with Headquarters Young Marines, and welcome to another episode of Young Marine Pro Tips. Today we're going to talk about one of the most important tenets to the Young Marine program. It's even in our motto. It's called Strengthening the Lives of America's Youth. We're just going to do it more effectively through the Young Marine Billet system. Why? Because you can't teach teamwork, leadership, and discipline in the classroom. The billets teach teamwork by starting you out as a team member, then transitioning you into being a team leader, and along the way you learn how to deal with team conflict and how to work in groups. The billets teach leadership because it not only teaches them how to lead others and deal with leadership problems, it also teaches them how to lead themselves. The billets also teach young Marines discipline. Now, I admit discipline sometimes gets a bad rep, but this is misinterpreted. Young Marines have to do the hardest thing it is for human beings to do, and that's discipline themselves. They have to discipline themselves to set the example and hold themselves to a higher standard. They also have to discipline themselves to get all their tasks completed while they're in their billet. Now let's talk about some of the main changes with the Young Marine billets. Before we get into the main changes, let's describe what a billet actually is. A billet was originally a term for sleeping quarters, and it still is, but it has evolved into also meaning a particular job assignment. In the Young Marines, billets are associated with a specific criteria for the job assignment, and we've made the following changes. The first main change is eligibility. Some billets have rank requirements or billet prerequisites before you can even hold the billet. If you do not meet the standard, you cannot hold the billet. However, some billets have clauses that allow you to hold them under certain circumstances, but you will not receive credit until you meet the billet's eligibility requirements. Next up is duties and tasks, the meat of the Young Marine billets. Duties and tasks are the strategic challenges associated with the billets. Each billet has the general duties that you have to perform throughout the billet's term. They also have the specific tasks that must be completed before you leave the billet. Keep in mind that if you do not complete the task, you will not get credit for the billet. Time period. Some billets have a time period between 3 and 6 months to ensure young Marines have an appropriate amount of time to complete the billet. This is also so we don't have young Marines holding billets for one weekend, because that's not the intent of the system. The only billets authorized to be as short as a weekend are higher level billets associated with an event. Now let's look at an example of the eligibility, duties and tasks, and time period of one of the billets. One of the best examples I can give you is the Unit Training Chief billet. The Unit Training Chief is responsible for setting up, operating, and attesting for all physical fitness tests. They're responsible for creating training schedules. They're also responsible for all the training plans and setting up refresher and specialized courses for adults and young Marine staff. Of course, this is all in conjunction with the executive officer and the training officer for the unit. To hold the billet, you have to be a Young Marine Master Sergeant in good standing. You also must have held the Assistant Training Chief position before holding Training Chief. This position is also a requirement for promotion to Young Marine Master Gunnery Sergeant. To receive credit for the billet of Unit Training Chief, you actually have to manage the training of the unit for 2 quarters. Within those 2 quarters, you have to plan, implement, and delegate all the unit training within the unit. Then you have to sit down with the training officer and go over your ideas on how the unit can improve on its planning and the curriculum for future training plans. Overall, billets give young Marines something real. Too many times when I find leadership deficiencies in young Marines, it's because their leadership experience, it didn't challenge them, or it wasn't real enough to give them an aha moment. Billets provide young Marines the freedom to fail and the opportunity to succeed in an environment controlled by adult volunteers. Sometimes I hear all the time, oh, we shouldn't let young Marines fail. No. Sometimes young Marines need strategic failures. Why? Because you can learn from failures too. It's called fail forward. Too many people in the world today, they want promotion without process. They want advancement without struggle and setback. If we really want to strengthen the lives of America's youth, young Marines have to know how to manage destiny and disappointment, victory and defeat, success and failures. They have to know how to do all of that. The billets and allowing young Marines to operate completely in them with minimal adult guidance creates an environment for these successes and natural failures to happen. And that's where the gold is going to be. It also allows adult volunteers to be mentors and not always be managers. So young Marines, do not forget to discipline yourselves and commit to the billets. In a time where the world is giving our youth everything, let's remind them that in the Young Marines, success will be earned, and our adult volunteers will do everything in their power to help them get there. And for those that think that this process is going to slow them down, don't be afraid of growing slowly. Be afraid of standing still. And as always, don't be Young Marine Lance Corporal, I don't feel like it. Let's get the job done.